What's up today, 49ers faithful? Drew Kerr, 49ers Sports Talk. Hope everybody's getting ready for a great 4th of July tomorrow. And in today's video, I want to talk about Kyle Shanahan, why he's unfireable, what he means to the organization, and give you some data points to back that statement up. Let's dive in. All right, before we get too heavily involved into some of the data and some of the backing points on why Kyle Shanahan isn't fireable, I just wanted to play this very quick clip from the state of the franchise. Some of you guys may have seen it, but I want you to pay attention even closer this time around and pay attention to Jed York's words, his sincerity, and then just kind of look at his comments and go a little bit deeper and just think a little bit on it. So without further ado, here you go.
Just trying to relax and enjoy the fact that we're here in the NFC Championship game, and Joe Montana was in our suite. And they asked Joe about it, and he's like, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to calm down. I think Brock is going to come out and play a hell of a second half. And he's like, we've got it. And but that's the type of feeling that I think we all have, right? We believe in Kyle. We believe in our players. We believe in the team. And, I don't know that anybody was going to make the largest wager in their life that we were going to win the game, right? But there's a belief that we have a chance in any game that we play that we can go out and win. And it's a testament to the hard work, not halftime adjustments, but what starts from the work that they did today on the field, right? That translates into that second half. And it's a testament to these guys.
What was halftime like in the locker room?
Oh, boy.
Kyle?
I felt like Joe. I was chilling. I was relaxed. I knew we were going to win. No, I was.
Were you down there too?
Totally kidding. I was so angry. I couldn't think about winning or
right.
losing. That wasn't the thing. It was like, guys, I don't care. If we're going out, we're not going out like this.
Right.
Like when we come out,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to make this a problem. And you don't think about hey, how many points? It's just this isn't acceptable. And we got to change this. And everyone felt that way. So everyone was kind of embarrassed and pissed. And there wasn't a lot of talk. It was an energy thank God we got 30 more minutes. Because after 30 more minutes, it's over. And so let's get this all out right now.
I remember seeing Debo on the sideline come up to you and get in your ear a little bit about coming. And then you got the ball right away to start, and it was on. So what was it like for you at halftime of that game, Jen?
I wasn't as cool as Joe, I can tell you that. Kyle will tell you, I'm an eternal optimist, so I'm always optimistic. I was not optimistic right then. It did not seem like it was our game, and I'll tell you, it was the first game in my tenure here that I went down to the locker room at halftime. I don't know what the hell for, but I felt compelled to go down. And I felt so much better, like Kyle talked about. I felt the energy in that locker room. I was sitting in with the equipment, man, and I'm just listening. And I could see Debo over there, and I saw Debo just breathing hard. And Debo looked at me and he said, "Tell him to get me the ball." And
Is that what he told you on
I'm
the
sure
sideline?
there were more words than that.
I never told him. I said,
Debo told him.
"How about you tell him?" Or better yet, show him. And
Don't need to be told.
yes.
Right.
It's very obvious.
And it was on. It was on, and that was a fun one.
So one key point there talked about in the state of the franchise was the longevity that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been here. Second longest tenured behind only Bill Walsh and John McVay. So I do actually talk about here in a bit. Sean McVay, get to that in a minute, but first just wanted to address Bill Walsh's coaching tree, the coaching universe. It's so impressive. I actually just posted on Twitter a bit ago a picture of this massive tree. You can't even call it a tree anymore. They're calling it coaching universe. And that's kind of what it is. I mean, if you look at all these coaches and then all their coaches and then all their coaches, I mean, guys like Andy Reid come from the Bill Walsh coaching tree and other great coaches. So just wanted to look at this real quick and appreciate that. So we can get into the actual record. I do actually, like I said, bring up Sean McVay's record, and we'll get to that here in a second. But just take a look at this and appreciate it, and we'll move on. So I just wanted to briefly touch on this. Obviously, anybody could look up Kyle Shanahan's record, but he does have a winning record in the regular season. It's just barely above 500, 64-51. But there was that weird 2020 season, the weird COVID season, where he went 6-10, and the Niners had a league high 18 players placed on injured reserve. I'm pretty sure MetLife Stadium, I think it was week 2, took out almost half the team. So Guys like Bosa, all sorts of guys went out. There was a musical chairs of, there was a carousel of quarterbacks that were coming in and out. So the COVID year and the final 3 games actually were played at State Farm Stadium in Arizona. So it's just a really bizarre year. There was no fans, no energy, masks. So if we're giving Kyle a mulligan for that, and there's no such thing as mulligans, it's in the record books, it's black and white. But if per se we were to give Kyle Shanahan a mulligan, it would be 58-41, and his winning percentage would be above 70%, almost 71%. So that's crazy for a first 7 years. We'll just say 6, if we can take that one weird season out. And for some contrast, I do want to, because they kind of came up together, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. There's a pretty big age disparity. I think they're like 6 years apart. So Sean McVay is still very young, 38. And so his regular season, almost 61% without the mulligan. So he's a little bit better than Kyle in the regular season. He's not had as many bad things happen, as many bad luck situations. So his regular season, 70-45, .609, almost 61% win rate. Postseason, 7-4, so 63, almost 64%. And then for his career, 61%. So, pretty good coach, very good coach, I should say, in the NFL. He's got a lot of young players this season. We'll see how he does with those guys, especially on the defense side of the ball. Not really worried about the offense, but they have, like Cooper Kupp was injured last year. So they've had their own battles with struggles with injuries and things like that. So Kyle Shanahan, playoffs better than McVay, 8-4. McVay did get him in the championship game. I'm not going to get into the details too much, but if Jaquiski Tart doesn't drop that pick that landed right in his breadbasket, then it might be singing a different tune. Niners might have their 6 against Cincinnati. So, and then Kyle, 2 Super Bowl appearances, so he's had more than McVay. McVay won his, obviously, but 2 Super Bowl appearances with some weird bounces, some weird referee type situations happening. 0-2, like I said, but multiple championship games, multiple winning seasons. He started out with nothing pretty much when the keys were handed over in 2017, and him and John Lynch have built a juggernaut. I mean, this team, everybody's always calling them the Avengers and everything like that, like being sarcastic, but they have built an immaculate roster, and it shows. These guys play together. They play for each other. So, yeah. The next element, just kind of leading right in from the record, kind of touch on this just briefly, but the dynamic locker room chemistry. Most of the beat writers, sans Grant Cohn, because he's always trying to find something wrong with Kyle. He's always trying to nitpick and, find flaws and everything. And sort of his little minions do the same thing. And it's a little on the pathetic side, if we're being honest and real. I get it, gets clicks, and everybody wants to be a critic and act like they know better than Kyle Shanahan and better than John Lynch and better than the executives. And look, I'm criticism is fair, but the way the approach is off. So anyway, just there's a true brotherhood in that locker room. These guys have seen it. Even Grant Cohn has seen it. If he doesn't want to acknowledge it, it's there. Everybody says it. So I believe the masses and the majority of these guys over like a select few. And then the other guys that aren't there that kind of just, mimic and echo whatever Grant says. So veteran free agents from other teams, this is probably the most important element to this equation, because other guys are coming from other locker rooms and they're all kind of saying the same thing, whether it's Campbell this year or Mooney Ward and even Richard Sherman. Touched on that, how Kyle's locker room and that environment is so positive and so friendly to a player when they first get there. But they try to find the right guys. They try to find the right rookies. They try to find the right free agents. And somehow, some way, they find a way to make it work and mold this team into a cohesive unit. So I think that's very impressive. And so we'll jump into the next thing here. I think that there's just quite a bit to cover on this topic, and we'll get into some more details. So the next thing I just wanted to talk about and bring up is Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree. It's pretty extensive already. He's already kind of got like that Bill Walsh thing going where everybody, from his coaching staff, coaches are just getting plucked left and right, left and right, left, right. These guys, obviously, most of them came from Gruden and Mike Shanahan. Gruden's first NFL job, actually, John Gruden's first NFL job was with the 49ers. In 1990, he was an offensive assistant. So he started out with that whole thing. He saw the culture, he saw the vibes. He then moved on pretty quickly. He only spent 1 year in San Francisco, but then I went on to like Pittsburgh and Green Bay and a few other places. But that coaching tree, that original Bill Walsh coaching tree, these guys both came from. So again, it's just trickling down, and obviously Kyle is now part of that coaching tree. But the guys that he's bringing on are some guys like Robert Saleh, and then Mike McDaniel, and all these dominoes started falling, and then D'Amico Ryans, and then some of the positional coaches like Slowick and Jeff Halfley, Green Bay's DC now. Rich Scangrillo, Las Vegas's quarterback coach, Mike LaFleur, Joe Woods, who's New Orleans defensive coordinator, Corey Unlin out of that's with Houston now, and then Anthony Lynn was kind of a lateral move over to Washington. But again, these guys saw the value in that, and they're bringing them over. So I think that just speaks volumes, and then a lot of these positional coach guys, and then who are now coordinators and everything like that, might get opportunities when other coaches start getting fired. Maybe the Giants head coach gets fired, and some of these other maybe the Panthers head coach gets fired, and some of these other guys that will get opportunities to become head coaches. It kind of feels like a quarter of the league right now are ex staffers of Kyle Shanahan. So it's just, that's pretty impressive in and of itself. And you don't fire coaches with that kind of track record. If staffs are coaching staff is getting plucked from one organization, that speaks highly, very highly of the head coach and the culture and everything like that. And for all these reasons, guys, Kyle Shanahan is nowhere near a hot seat. He's unfireable. As long as he keeps winning and doesn't insult Jed York like another coach did in 2014, who's now coaching for the Chargers, I think he's got job security. If he wins in the regular season, all you want is a chance. Your ticket punched to the dance, you get a chance. And that's what Kyle Shanahan's been doing. Anything can happen once you get to the tournament, of course, but if he's continuing to just put his team in position to do it, you can't fire him. You can't fire him, because there's nobody that's going to replace him that's that good. And at the end of the day, it's a business. Winning matters. Winning puts butts in the seats. You look at guys like Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. They haven't done anything since their Super Bowl wins. But ownership recognizes that they're filling the stands. They can increase ticket prices because it's a winning team and they have an opportunity almost every year. But that's how you lose your job. You start losing, you start not making it to the playoffs, and that's how you lose your job. And Kyle Shanahan has not done that except for that one mulligan year that we talked about earlier. And so you can't really fault him for that. He's won. He's got a winning record in spite of that. And I just think it's funny when guys are like, oh, Kyle's on the hot seat, or he's on the hot seat if this, if that. And they live in a fantasy land that doesn't exist in real life. And all Kyle's done since he's gotten to San Francisco is won. He's built a great culture. And, I think that for me, the bottom line is that there might only be one coach that I would actually consider replacing Kyle Shanahan with, and that guy's in Kansas City. So there's an argument maybe to be made for Sean McVay. He's younger. He kind of builds that same culture. He kind of has the same attitude winning. He comes from the same coaching tree, so he understands the same things that Kyle understands. The offenses are very similar. So there could be, if Kyle did, have two back-to-back losing, and I think that's what it would take. I think before we're even talking about hot seat, Kyle Shanahan's going to have back-to-back losing seasons because they keep building these big rosters. Obviously, there's going to be some cap issues next year. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. If the Niners take a dip, or if Brock Purdy can rise to the occasion and be that next Tom Brady or Tom Brady 2.0, to where he actually adds an element of running, but it has the cerebral the mindfulness that Brady had, but also adds an element of athleticism. So I just think there's too many things working in favor of Kyle Shanahan. Ownership believes in him, as you guys saw in those videos. John Lynch and him work very well together. It doesn't seem like there's any major resistance or friction or anything like that. So I think they know each other by now. They've been working together almost 10 years. So anyway, I think that's all I have. I think that there's a case to be made for him not ever being fired as long as he keeps winning. And that's just my take on it. I don't feel like he's anywhere near being fired. All right, and so before we get into this next little bit, I just had one more clip. I just wanted to play for you guys really, really quickly. So it's Jed York again at the State of the Franchise, and he's talking a little bit more in depth about how he views Kyle Shanahan, how he views John Lynch, and what he thinks of them, and why he thinks that they're good fits and sticking around for a long time. So let's jump into that.
every year. Like we're not taking years off. I mean, you can't, as people say, you're going for it every year. We are going for it every year. That doesn't mean you can't be irresponsible and just trade draft picks away and just spend money, because that'll catch up with you the following year. So every decision we make is always about going for it, but also not trying to screw us for the next year. So like it took us 2 years to kind of get it there. And I feel for 6 years in a row, every season we've gone in, and I feel like we have a chance, and that's exactly what we want. And you want that, yeah, you like that because of certain things and stuff, but no matter what happens, coaches you lose, players you lose. If you're doing the cycle right and you're doing things the right way and you have some luck, you don't have bad luck with injuries and stuff, you always have a chance to get to that tournament. And if you can get in the playoffs, then you never know what's going to happen.
That's it. When this franchise was winning every year, they had two Hall of Famers, Coach Walsh and John McVay, the former coach. Did you ever imagine when you put these two guys together it would last, kind of a Walsh-McVay length, Jed?
I mean, I've done more coaching searches than I'd like to admit. But that's always my thought process is I want somebody that's going to be here for a long time. You look at the teams that are successful, and you talk about the teams that compete year in and year out. Baltimore's in it year in and year out. Like, they've had the same people for a long time. Pittsburgh, like you look at those clubs.
Kansas
New
City.
England for a long time. Now Kansas City, right? Like, there's a reason why teams that have a great coach and a great general manager and they have a great thing going, they have a chance. You have to get in, and it's very, very hard to start anew, right? Like, it's very hard to bring in a new group of people, try to change a culture, and get your set of 53 players in versus somebody else's. And that's what I love about just watching this draft class, this offseason, this process. We have some really, really talented top-line players, but we were able to add people in the draft and in free agency that are not just good football players, but they're good fits to our team. And that's what you need. And I think we have guys that have more than enough ability, but we are always looking for guys that are dependable. Because when you get into a game, when you're down big on your home field in the NFC Championship game, if you have talented players that aren't dependable, you're going to crack. Like 100% you're going to crack. We have guys that are willing to fight until the end, regardless of what the situation is. And that starts with these guys. And that's what gives us a chance to go compete for it and hopefully win it this year.
The continuity in our own division with Les Snead and Coach McVay, and Seattle had it going on for a long time, obviously.
Just one more quick side note that I wanted to plug in here is that Kyle Shanahan is family, right? Like, Jed York and him are close in age. They kind of grew up with the Niners in the same situation. Like, Kyle was a ball boy. He watched his dad coach with Bill Walsh and George Seifert, and he just grew up around this stuff. He grew up around the organization. So Sean McVay, his grandfather was part of it. But these guys are family. They're being treated like family. They're not being treated like discardable coaches or anything like that. So they've built a culture, again, just going back to the culture of family. Even Ricky Pearsall, rookie, this year came in, and he said they just welcomed him with open arms. He felt like family immediately. They welcomed his family, and that's kind of the theme. That's the theme that the Niners have, is like welcome to the family. So that was a big Eddie D staple. He treated guys like they're part of the family, and Kyle Shanahan is a 49ers family member. All right, guys. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the subscribers. Please go ahead and like this. Get it up in the algorithm. Hope everybody has a safe 4th of July. Don't blow any fingers off or anything like that. And leave a comment and with your own thoughts, and let me know what exactly it would take for Kyle Shanahan to get fired. See you guys in the next video. Take care.